She rose. You must journey there. And remember, not all allies wear honest faces. Not all shadows bring harm. Emrys reached forth, grasping the key. It was cool, humming softly in his palm. And if I fail? He whispered. The willow lady smiled, a sad and knowing curve. Then the stars themselves shall dim. She began to fade, her form blending into the willow's veil. Go now, seeker. Dawn nears. And with that, Emrys sat alone beneath the great willow, key in hand, heart alight with new purpose. The first faint blush of dawn colored the horizon as Emrys emerged from beneath the elder willow's boughs. The glade was quiet now, as though the lady's presence had been a dream, but the silver key in his pocket weighed solid and cool against his side. A winding path stretched before him, no longer cloaked in the deep night shadows. The trees whispered softly overhead, their leaves catching the pale light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. Journey beneath the roots, she had said. Emrys consulted his well-worn journal. Among its pages was a half-remembered map, a sketch of Aeloria drawn from old tales and fragmentary lore. There, deep within the forest, was marked a hollow called the Wound of the Earth, a great cavern beneath a fallen tree. It would take the better part of the day to reach. With a steadying breath, Emrys began walking. The forest changed as he moved deeper. The oaks grew twisted, their branches tangled like the fingers of ancient giants. The air grew cooler, touched with the scent of damp stone and earth. Birdsong gave way to the soft chittering of unseen things. At midday, Emrys paused beneath a vast, lightning-scarred tree. He drank sparingly from his flask and consulted the map again. Close now, he murmured. The wound should lie just beyond a ridge to the east. He rose, and froze. A soft voice drifted from behind him. You seek the roots below. Turning swiftly, Emrys beheld a slender figure clad in a cloak of pale feathers. Her hair was dark as raven's wings, her eyes gleaming with sharp intelligence. I mean no harm, Emrys said, hands open. The figure tilted her head. Few walk this deep with clear intent. Emrys hesitated, then said simply, the willow lady sent me. A flicker of recognition crossed the stranger's face. Then you are brave, or a fool? She approached, the feathered cloak whispering like wind through grass. I am Nissa, warden of these woods. Emrys inclined his head. I seek the wound of the earth. Nissa considered him for a long moment. Then, with a small nod, she gestured. Follow. The path is treacherous, and many would turn you astray. Grateful, Emrys fell in step beside her. Nissa moved like water, her steps barely disturbing leaf or stone. As they climbed the ridge, she spoke softly. The mirror draws many now. Whispers ripple through root and stream. You are not the first to seek it. Emrys gripped the key tighter. And those who came before? Nissa's voice grew quiet. Most were lost. Some, changed. A chill traced Emrys' spine. At length, they reached the ridge's crest. Before them yawned the wound. A vast hollow where a great tree had once stood, its fallen trunk now a moss-draped bridge across the chasm. At its heart, a dark mouth opened into the earth, rimmed with ancient stone. Nissa turned to him. Beyond lies the underpath. If you go, there is no swift return. Emrys looked at the key, then at the waiting shadows. I must. Nissa regarded him a moment longer, then placed a slender hand on his shoulder. Then may the forest guard you. With that, she stepped back. Emrys approached the stone archway. The silver key hummed softly in his palm. As he held it forth, runes ignited along the stone, spiraling inward. The earth trembled. The gate opened. With a final glance at Nissa, Emrys stepped into the roots of the world. As Emrys crossed the threshold, the temperature dropped sharply. The moist scent of earth and old stone filled his lungs. Behind him, the entrance sealed with a low hum, and the light of the waking forest vanished. He stood alone in the underpath. The walls pulsed faintly with a dull blue glow, cast from veins of mineral threading through the stone. The air was heavy, yet oddly still, as though the place itself was waiting. Emrys withdrew his journal and began noting every detail, the texture of the walls, the scent, the way sound seemed to fade to nothing within yards. Ahead, a narrow stone bridge spanned a deep chasm. No railings. Just smooth, ancient stone worn by untold footsteps. Emrys stepped cautiously forward. As he crossed, the bridge seemed to sway, though no wind stirred here. His heart pounded. Halfway across, a soft voice echoed faintly. "Why do you seek the mirror?" He halted. "Who speaks?" "Why risk light for shadow?" The voice persisted, female, neither young nor old. Emrys steadied his breath. "Because truth must be known." A pause. "Then step lightly, seeker." The voice faded. Swallowing his nerves, Emrys resumed his crossing. On the far side, the tunnel forked. One path lined with worn carvings, the other smooth and black as onyx. He consulted his journal. The legend spoke of the runewalk, a path of trials beneath Aeloria's roots. Choosing the carved tunnel, he pressed onward. The carvings told a story, tall figures cloaked in stars, roots entwined with constellations, a mirror reflecting both light and shadow. Emrys traced one glyph, his fingers tingled at its touch. "Do not linger," a familiar voice warned. He turned. Nissa stood at the tunnel's mouth, her cloak glimmering faintly in the dim light. "You followed?" "I watch all who pass this way," she replied softly. "You tread where few dare." Emrys nodded. "I will not turn back." A small smile touched her lips. "Good." Together, they walked deeper. The tunnel narrowed, forcing them to move single file. At intervals, side chambers yawned, each containing strange relics, a harp strung with silver light, a stone basin filled with stardust, a book whose pages turned themselves. Emrys's curiosity burned, but Nissa's gaze warned, not all gifts were safe. At length, they reached a broad chamber. In its center stood an ancient archway, inscribed in forgotten script. Beneath it, a pool of shimmering water reflected no ceiling, only stars. "The mirror's gate," Nissa whispered. "But the way is sealed." Emrys drew forth the silver key. It thrummed with growing urgency. "Place it," she said. Kneeling, Emrys fit the key into a hidden slot at the arch's base. The chamber shuddered. Light rippled across the water. The runes ignited, one by one. The pool began to swirl. "Now," Nissa breathed. "The next trial begins." Emrys stood, heart pounding, as the water rose in a spiraling column, beckoning him forward. The column of water rose before Emrys, twining upward like a living serpent of light. Within its depths, stars shimmered, whole constellations caught in slow, graceful orbit. Nissa's voice was barely a whisper. "Step through when it opens. Speak nothing. Listen to everything." Emrys nodded. His fingers tightened around the silver key, now faintly warm. The archway pulsed once, twice, then the column parted like a curtain. A swirling vortex remained within, deep indigo threaded with silver. Emrys drew a breath and stepped forward. The sensation was immediate, neither cold nor warm, neither solid nor liquid. A strange buoyancy held him as he drifted through the vortex. When he emerged, the air smelled of sandalwood and rain. He stood in a vast space beneath a starlit sky, yet the ground was translucent glass, and below it, the forest roots of Aeloria twined endlessly. Above him hung a black void speckled with stars. "The spiral of stars," a voice intoned. He turned. There stood a figure clad in robes of midnight, face obscured by a shifting veil of starlight. "You seek the mirror," the figure said. "But first, you must endure its gaze." Emrys swallowed. "I am ready." The figure gestured. Before him rose a mirror, tall as 3 men, framed in root and silver. Its surface rippled like still water. Reflections danced across it, none his own. "You must see, and be seen," the figure said. "Truth, and untruth. You may not like what you find." Emrys approached. The surface calmed. Slowly, an image formed. Himself, standing amidst a ruined Aeloria, trees blackened, stars dimmed. He flinched. Failure brings ruin, the voice whispered. Can you bear this? I can, Emrys whispered, though his heart trembled. The image shifted. Emrys as a child, tracing constellations with his grandmother beneath a summer sky. Warmth flooded his chest. Memory binds us, the voice said. Can you carry this? I can. Again, the mirror rippled. Nissa, standing before a shadowed figure, her eyes filled with quiet sorrow. Emrys frowned. What is this? Potential paths, came the answer. The mirror shows truths yet to be chosen. The mirror stilled. The star-clad figure spoke. You have faced its first gaze. Now, the path deepens. Will you continue? Emrys glanced down, the silver key had transformed, now a slender rod of light, thrumming softly. I will. The figure extended an arm. A doorway appeared, arched in roots and light. Then walk on, seeker. The forest's heart awaits. Emrys stepped forward. The archway of roots and light enveloped Emrys as he stepped forward. For a moment, he felt weightless, floating between breath and thought. When his feet found the ground again, he stood in a narrow corridor that seemed alive. The walls pulsed faintly with golden light, and the floor was a tapestry of ancient roots, woven tight beneath his boots. Soft murmurs drifted through the air, not voices exactly, but the hum of memory. Nissa appeared beside him once more, her cloak of feathers dimmed as if muted by the place. This is the rootways, she said softly. Here, the forest remembers. Emrys glanced around. Remembers what? All who have passed beneath its boughs. All dreams, all sorrows. Threads in the great weave. They walked. As they moved deeper, the roots around them began to shift, opening brief windows of vision. A young warrior laying a blade to rest beneath an oak. A child whispering a wish into the bark of a birch. An old scholar reading aloud to an unseen audience beneath starlight. Emrys watched, heart aching. Are these visions real? Nissa nodded. More real than most stories. Here, memory is root and breath. A pause. Why are you helping me? Emrys asked, voice low. Nissa's gaze flickered. Because the mirror draws more than seekers. Others come, those who would twist its power. Her voice grew colder. Already, shadows stir. They turned a corner. Before them stood a massive door of blackened wood, entwined with silver vines. The heartroot gate, Nissa whispered. Beyond lies the chamber of reflection. Emrys approached, the rod of light pulsing in his hand. Place it here, Nissa instructed, pointing to a hollow in the door. As the rod touched the recess, the vines unfurled with a faint sigh. The door creaked open. A great chamber stretched beyond, circular, its walls lined with flowing streams of light. At its center hovered a single silver orb, turning slowly. Nissa's eyes darkened. Be wary, Emrys. The chamber tests not your strength, but your will. He nodded, stepping inside. At once, a voice echoed, his own. Why do you seek truth, when comfort is easier? Emrys stood firm. Because the stars deserve honesty. Why walk alone, when safety lies in ignorance? Because paths unwalked hold the greatest truths. Why bear the pain of knowing? Emrys's voice caught. For a moment, doubt flickered. Then he spoke, steady. Because light must be carried, even when it burns. The orb flared. Streams of light wove toward him, wrapping gently around his form. The chamber pulsed once, then stilled. From the orb, a single silver seed drifted into his hands. Nissa stepped forward, eyes wide. The heart's seed, she whispered. Few are granted such trust. Emrys cradled it gently. What must I do? Plant it, in the mirror's grove. There, your path will be revealed. She glanced toward a newly opened archway, shimmering with soft light. "Come," she said. "The final leg awaits." Together, they stepped through. The archway gave way to an open glade bathed in silver light. The air felt lighter here, charged with a quiet expectation, as if every leaf and stone held its breath. Emrys and Nissa stepped forth into the grove. At its heart stood a pool of perfectly still water, ringed by ancient trees whose trunks shimmered faintly with runes. Their leaves swayed gently, though no breeze stirred. Above, stars turned slowly across a velvet sky, brighter here than anywhere Emrys had ever seen. "This is the Mirror's Grove," Nissa whispered. "Here the worlds meet. Root and star, shadow and light." Emrys gazed in wonder. Near the pool's edge stood a simple pedestal, shaped from living wood. Upon it, a small hollow, perfect in size and shape to hold the heart's seed. Nissa's gaze was solemn. "You must plant it here. The mirror will awaken." Emrys approached the pedestal, heart pounding. As his fingers placed the silver seed within the hollow, the grove seemed to draw a deep breath. The runes on the trees flared with sudden brilliance. The pool began to ripple, expanding outward in shimmering rings. From its depths, a figure began to rise, not of flesh, but woven of starlight and root. The trail beyond the Mirror's Grove grew narrow, winding deeper beneath a canopy of roots so dense they nearly blotted out the starlight above. The air here was thicker, humming softly as though the very earth sang to itself. Emrys and Nissa moved carefully. Each footstep seemed to echo through the ancient wood, as if unseen listeners were drawing close. "How far do the roots stretch?" Emrys asked, voice hushed. Nissa glanced upward, her gaze distant. "As far as the stars. The root-bound path connects the oldest places, threads between worlds." A shiver ran through Emrys. "And the mirror lies beyond?" Nissa nodded. "Guarded. Forgotten. But awakening." They pressed on. After some time, the path widened into a chamber of towering root pillars. In its center stood a massive stone door, covered in spiraling glyphs that pulsed faintly with light. Nissa frowned. "We are not alone." Emrys followed her gaze. Shadows flickered near the edges of the chamber. Subtle movements that stirred no air, cast no sound. From the dark stepped three figures, clad in cloaks of deep crimson. Their faces were hidden beneath silver masks shaped like serpents. One spoke, voice cold and smooth. "The seeker comes late." Nissa stepped protectively before Emrys. "Begone, serpent order. The grove has chosen." The figure laughed softly. "The grove's will is not ours to honor. The mirror belongs to none, and all." Emrys gripped the rod of light instinctively. Another of the masked figures hissed. "Give us the seed." Emrys's voice rang clear. "The seed is planted. The path is ours." A tense silence followed. Then, with a flick of Nissa's wrist, a blade of woven light sprang to her hand. The serpent figures drew curved daggers etched with dark runes. The chamber seemed to tremble as the air thickened. "Stay behind me," Nissa whispered. But before either side could strike, a deep voice rumbled through the chamber. "Enough." The root pillars shuddered. From the stone door, a towering figure emerged, woven entirely of roots and starlight, eyes twin embers of ancient wisdom. "The guardian root," Nissa breathed. The massive figure extended a hand. Vines erupted from the floor, binding the masked figures in place. "No blood shall be shed upon the root-bound path," the guardian spoke. "All who seek may face the trials, but none shall claim by force." The serpent figures struggled, hissing, but the vines held firm. The guardian turned to Emrys. "Seeker, will you walk the next path?" Emrys drew a deep breath. "I will." "Then place your hand upon the gate and speak your truth." Nissa glanced at him. "Be ready. The gate sees more than you know." Emrys stepped forward. Placing his palm against the cold stone, he spoke. "I seek the mirror not for power, but for understanding. To guard its truth, and guide it from unworthy hands." The glyphs flared bright. The stone trembled, then slowly slid open, revealing a spiraling staircase of light that descended into the earth's very heart. The guardian released the serpent order, who fled into the shadows with venomous glares. Nissa touched Emrys' shoulder. "You spoke well." Emrys looked into the depths. "There's no turning back now." Together, they began the descent. Step by step, Emrys and Nissa descended the spiraling staircase of light. The deeper they went, the more the stone walls began to shimmer, not with reflection, but with movement. Faint images flowed across them, roots intertwining with stars, shadowy figures passing through unseen doors, fragments of forgotten memories. Emrys paused to trace one such image, a young woman standing beneath a midnight sky, holding a mirror that glowed like a moon. Her face shifted as he watched, becoming hundreds of faces, thousands. "The mirror has seen many," Nissa said softly. "And it remembers them all." They pressed on. The air grew warmer, heavier. A faint hum vibrated through the soles of their boots, resonating in their bones. At last, the staircase opened into a vast cavern. Emrys gasped. They stood within the earth heart, a chamber the size of a great hall, its walls formed entirely of intertwining roots. At its center rose a pedestal of living stone, upon which hovered a great, circular object. A mirror wrought of silver and starlight, its surface rippling like liquid glass. "The Starfall Mirror," Nissa whispered, reverence in her voice. Emrys took a step forward. As he did, the air seemed to pulse. A deep voice echoed through the cavern, not spoken aloud, but within their minds. "Who comes before the mirror?" Emrys swallowed. "Emrys of Veros Hollow. I come to protect the mirror, to understand its truth." "And who stands beside you?" Nissa spoke, her voice steady. "Nissa, warden of the rootways. I stand as shield and witness." A pause. "Then you may look." The mirror's surface calmed, clearing to reveal not Emrys' reflection, but a vision of the forest, alive with light, its roots glowing, stars wheeling above. The image shifted. A dark hand reached toward the mirror, shadows coiling around its edges. Emrys' breath caught. "The serpent order." Nissa nodded grimly. "They seek to bend its power, to shatter the weave of the forest." The mirror's voice returned. "Will you bear its burden, Seeker? To guard, to remember, to endure?" Emrys stepped closer, heart pounding. "I will." "Then take the oath." From the mirror sprang a thread of silver light, weaving around Emrys' wrist like a living bracelet. "Speak." Emrys' voice rang clear. "I vow to guard the mirror's truth, to walk paths of light and shadow, to uphold the balance of root and star." The thread tightened, glowing bright. "The oath is bound." Nissa placed a hand upon his shoulder, her gaze soft but proud. "You have been chosen, Emrys." The cavern seemed to sigh, a deep exhale of ancient air. But as the light dimmed, a new voice echoed, harsh and cold. "And so we meet at last." From the shadows beyond the roots stepped a tall figure clad in crimson robes, the leader of the Serpent Order. "You have delayed us, Seeker," the figure hissed. "But the mirror will be ours." Nissa drew her blade of light, stepping before Emrys. "Not while I stand," she said fiercely. The chamber tensed, the mirror pulsing with warning light. Emrys gripped the rod of light, heart steady. The final trial had begun. The crimson-clad leader of the Serpent Order stepped forward, flanked by two masked acolytes. His voice echoed harshly through the earth heart. "The mirror's truth belongs to none, it is power unbound. Step aside, and you may yet leave whole." Nissa stood firm, her blade of light humming softly. "You mistake the mirror. Its truth is not for domination." Emrys tightened his grip on the rod of light. The mirror pulsed between them, its surface flickering with visions, the forest aflame, shadows twisting through root and star, a lone figure standing against the dark. The serpent leader gestured sharply. His acolytes advanced. "Emrys," Nissa whispered, "you must bind the mirror. If it falls into their hands, Before she could finish, the first acolyte lunged. Nissa met the strike with fluid grace, her blade clashing against darkened steel. Sparks of light scattered across the cavern. The second acolyte darted toward Emrys. Instinct took hold. Emrys raised the rod, light surged forth, forming a shield that deflected the incoming blow. His heart pounded, breath ragged. "The mirror calls to me," the serpent leader snarled, eyes gleaming beneath his mask. He strode toward the pedestal, weaving dark tendrils of energy from his hands. Emrys stepped between him and the mirror. "You will not claim it," he said, voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Then you will break." The leader unleashed a wave of shadow. Emrys met it with the rod, channeling the mirror's light. The forces clashed, light and dark swirling in a storm of energy. Through the maelstrom, Emrys heard the mirror's voice, calm and resolute. "Seeker, your heart is your strength. Speak the oath anew. Anchor the light." Drawing a deep breath, Emrys spoke. "I vow to guard the mirror's truth. To walk the paths of root and star. To shield against the dark's embrace. To hold the balance, near and far." The light surged, consuming the shadows. The acolytes stumbled back, their weapons falling. The leader recoiled, his form flickering. "No, this is not the end," he spat. With a final pulse from the mirror, a wave of force radiated outward, sweeping the serpent order from the chamber. They vanished into the shadows beyond the rootways. Silence fell. Emrys stood trembling, the rod dimming in his hand. The mirror's light softened, its surface calm once more. Nissa approached, lowering her blade. Her eyes held both relief and wonder. "You have done it," she said softly. "The mirror is bound, to your heart, to your oath." Emrys exhaled slowly. "Is it safe?" "For now," Nissa replied. "But the serpent order will not cease." The mirror's voice returned, gentle and warm. "Seeker and Warden, you have passed the trial. The path ahead remains, but you are not alone. The forest remembers. The stars watch. The roots endure." A new doorway opened in the chamber's far wall, arched with living root and light. Nissa touched Emrys' arm. "Come. There is more yet to learn." Together, they stepped through, leaving the earth heart behind.